Hi, my name is Alyssa Placencia, and for my Choice 2 assignment, I watched the video Housing Segregation and Redlining in America, A Short History. I believe that this video didn't necessarily introduce any new concepts for me, but it did put a name to what I kind of already knew happened throughout history. Overall, redlining, I believe, should have never been a thing because it took away from people's lives, essentially. And I feel like there's no reversing that for many people. In the video, it stated that redlining happened throughout most of the major states in America, but the video mainly focused on Baltimore because it was very clear that this was happening there. If people had money and they were in a higher class, they had more of an opportunity to grow because compared to the lower classes, they were given very flawed schooling systems. Their education, they weren't given an opportunity to actually grow from where they started. And not only that, but the housing situation was terrible. Yes, they had the right to have a home. They had shelter, but it was very broken down, and they were breathing in toxic fumes, and there was lead poisoning, and even to just raise a child in this, it's just not ideal. And not only did that just affect their mental health, but it definitely affected their physical health. And down the line in the video, it stated that this led to a lot of these Black and Hispanic people that were subjected to this treatment, they ended up having cancer or just sicknesses because of the conditions that they were forced to live in. And not only that, they weren't just redlined because of the conditions that they had to live in, but even in the better areas that were green lined or blue lined or whatever the term that they used is, they had rules that wouldn't allow people of color to move into those neighborhoods. They didn't. Honestly, I believe that this should have never been legal, and I'm sure that most people agree with me, but I feel like it was so unfair, and they weren't able to branch out of this lifestyle. They weren't given an opportunity to ever do better because, like I said, everything that they had was flawed, and they weren't allowed to leave the area because this is just what the government allowed at the time. After the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., they enforced a Fair Housing Act. This was supposed to ban housing discrimination from whether it was for race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. I believe that yes, this definitely helped, and it definitely got some people on their feet, but it still happened, just a lot more subtly. Everything was still very unequal, and I feel like it's just not fair. I have definitely seen things like this happen. I moved almost 2 years ago now from Brooklyn, New York, and I lived in a neighborhood that was mainly Jewish people, and overall I loved it there. But there was areas around me that people knew not to go to because of the conditions that people were living in. There was one neighborhood, and it was called Brownsville. It wasn't too far from where I was living, and I went there one day, and I just drove through, and I could see their houses were broken down, and I heard that the schooling systems were terrible. They didn't really care about the education these children were getting. They were just there to work, and I feel like that is never fair because they don't, like I said, it's just it's the opportunities that are taken away from these children. And yes, I believe that is where everything starts, because if they're not having a good upbringing, it's hard to get yourself on your feet once you actually need to. Overall, I think that everything that happened to these people was completely unfair. And regarding the good for business real estate practices, I feel like it didn't really do much to help people. I think that what needs to be done is they need, especially on like job applications, I feel like they need to stop asking for a race and a gender, because I feel like no matter what color your skin is, no matter what your gender is, I feel like if you can get the job done, then it doesn't matter. everybody is trying to do the same thing. They just want to make money and they want to have a life. So I feel like those things essentially at the end of the day they do not matter. And regarding like the housing situation, I feel the same way. I feel like nobody should ever be denied the right to to buy a home just because of what they look like. Because at the end of the day, we are all human, and I feel like if anybody thinks otherwise, then I think it's just wrong. I feel like there is no other answer to that. Overall, I think that we as people need to make these changes. Obviously, it's impossible to get everybody to think the same way as I do or as you do, but I feel like even just getting some people to open their eyes, whether it's one person, three people, it doesn't matter. I feel like that definitely makes a change because we need to do something. Because even still, I feel like, yes, things have gotten better, but I think that we could do better than we are now, by far. Thank you.